Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Hymn of the Week. It's a pleasure to be with you, to join with you for these few moments again this week as we contemplate another hymn, another scripture passage, and what that means to us in our journey toward the cross as Easter is approaching. Our hymn of the week this week, as Pastor Harry will share with us, is Beneath the Cross of Jesus. And we're reflecting on the word beneath just a little bit, about the closeness to the cross and what the word beneath means. This word helps us relate to the cross and what it means to us. And so as I think about the word beneath, two thoughts come to mind. Being beneath something means that we're under it. It's above us. In a sense, being beneath the cross means that I submit to it. I submit to Jesus and what he did for us on the cross. Being beneath something also means that I'm under it in terms of its protection over me. Being under the cross means that I'm protected by it. I'm in its shadow, in the shadow of what Jesus did, protected by his wings, by his arms, by his heart, by his love for us. Beneath the cross of Jesus. I'm looking forward to what Pastor Harry has to say about this and the hymn story for this week, and of course the music. But before we get to that, let's turn to our text for the week from John chapter 19, beginning at verse 16. This is part of the story of the crucifixion itself, and I invite you to listen along, read along with the text on the screen with both your mind and your heart. And let the nearness of the cross reach out and touch you today. John chapter 19. Finally, Pilate handed him over to them to be crucified. So the soldiers took charge of Jesus. Carrying his own cross, he went out to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with him two others, one on each side, and Jesus in the middle. Pilate had a notice prepared and fastened to the cross. It read, "Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews." Many of the Jews read this sign, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and the sign was written in Aramaic, Latin, and Greek. The chief priests of the Jews protested to Pilate, "Do not write the King of the Jews, but that this man claimed to be the King of the Jews." Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." When the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes, dividing them into 4 shares, one for each of them, with the undergarment remaining. This garment was seamless, woven in one piece from top to bottom. "Let's not tear it," they said to one another. "Let's decide by lot who will get it." This happened that the scripture might be fulfilled that said, "They divided my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment." So this is what the soldiers did. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother there and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to her, "Woman, here is your son." And to the disciple, "Here is your mother." From that time on, this disciple took her into his home. Later, knowing that everything had now been finished, and so that the scripture would be fulfilled, Jesus said, "I am thirsty." The jar of wine vinegar was there, so they soaked a sponge in it, put the sponge on a stalk of the hyssop plant, and lifted it to Jesus' lips. When he had received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." With that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit.
John's Gospel provides autobiographical details not found elsewhere in the Gospels. Though unnamed, John commonly used the words, "the disciple whom he loved," to identify himself as a participant in the story. The other Gospels report the women watching events from a distance. John alone records the story of the women and John standing near the cross. How near? Near enough for Jesus to converse with them while he suffered. What was it that motivated them to overcome fear and draw near to the cross? On our journey to the cross, our hymn of the week now brings us to the place beneath the cross of Jesus. I fain would take my stand. That word fain, F-A-I-N, is a word meaning glad. Beneath the cross of Jesus, I gladly take my stand. What was there about a cruel cross that evoked a response of glad submission? Elizabeth Clephane was born June 18, 1830 in Edinburgh, Scotland. She was the third of three daughters born to Andrew and Anna Clephane, and lived most of her life in Melrose, near the Scottish border. She grew up in the Scottish Presbyterian Church, where she remained active all her life. Growing up, she displayed unusual poetic gifts and began writing verse at an early age. Though frail and often ill, she had a cheerful disposition that earned her the nickname Sunbeam by the people she served. She was compassionate and reserved a special place in her heart for the poor and the sick in her community. On one occasion, she reportedly sold their horse and carriage and contributed the proceeds to help the poor. She wrote the hymn Beneath the Cross of Jesus in 1868, a year before her early death at the age of 39. The hymn was published soon after her passing. The original hymn had 5 verses, of which only 3 are included in most hymnals. In contrast to Isaac Watts, whose hymn, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, focused on the grand theme of redemption, her hymn was more personal and practical. Using Old Testament imagery of a journey, she described the cross as a refuge, a mighty rock within a weary land, a home within the wilderness, a rest beside the way, a shield from the noonday heat, and release from the burden of the day. For her, the cross was a source of strength and encouragement, hence a glad submission to the cross. Her description of Christ's suffering on the cross in stanza 2 concluded in this way: "And from my smitten heart with tears to wonders I confess, the wonder of his glorious love and my unworthiness." She retained that spirit of wonder and humility throughout her life. Stanza 3 expressed her resolve to remain near the cross. I take, O cross, thy shadow as my abiding place. Her contemplative vision of Christ's suffering from beneath the cross has since become a source of strength and encouragement to many others on their journey toward the cross. The music by Frederick C. Maker was an adaptation and arrangement of an existing tune called St. Christopher. Listen to our musicians, Ruth Thiessen at the piano, Karen Lenzmann, flute, and Lesley Dyck, soloist, as they play and sing for us Beneath the Cross of Jesus by Elizabeth Clephane, our hymn of the week.